now the newest episode of On the Carousel brings us to none other than Utah with new Utes head coach Alex Jensen. Alex, congrats. How's everything going in this world of college basketball when most guys, well, a few years ago wanted to go from college to the NBA. Now we got a lot of guys going from the NBA to college, and it's a crazy time in college right now. How has the adjustment been for you over the last couple months?
It's getting better.
Okay.
No, it's I knew there was going to be a learning curve because it's changed. I mean, I haven't coached in college for I think 15 years, and it's changed since then. The funny part, I remember right when I left, they were just changing the rule where you could text guys unlimited. And I actually started my Facebook page because right before I left, because they were allowing that too, where you could recruit on social media. I haven't touched it since. But no, it's been good. You know, the fun part about it, Jeff, is and I mean this is it's new. I know I have a lot to learn, and to me, that's the fun part about coaching.
So the why. I mean, you're in the NBA. You got a great gig. You got a good life. It's a different lifestyle than college. Let's be honest. Is no, and I'm not saying it's easy by any means. The travel is brutal in the NBA. But when you leave the arena, generally you leave the arena, right? You leave after you work out guys. You know, Brad Stevens always used to tell me this. He'd drive home as a coach of the Celtics. He'd be like, I'd be looking for people to talk to. Nobody was calling me anymore. Um, why? I mean, obviously it's your alma mater, and that had to be a huge hook to this thing. But why'd you take this job?
You know, it's interesting because I think when the process started, like every time, uh, I've been lucky. I've never had to really like pursue a job. I'm not bragging, but like when it comes, like I'll have the conversations, and I think I'm pretty thorough in thinking about it. And there've been times when I thought I'd never come back, but it's interesting how the timing works out. And in a funny way, with the NIL and how it's changing, I think there'll be a few more guardrails and regulations and everything.
Hopefully.
Like I kind of, just kind of my mind, I kind of, I think there's an appealing side to it in a way, a way that it could be done. And, the alma mater, there's always, I think, because of the relationships I've had here, and I've been fortunate to be successful when I played here. I think I had a good feel on how it's done and what it takes, if that makes any sense. And I just think, with the conversations with, the people here at Utah, like in my mind, I think, it's kind of coming clear, but there's a visualization of, we can be successful here.
So, obviously the big thing is NIL. Everybody wants like, how much money do I have? And I'm actually at NC State right now filming this because I'm down here for the Carolina Hurricanes game 1 and 2 for my daughter.
Oh,
So,
oh, good.
in full
I'm going to
disclosure,
try to.
yeah,
I know I was going to try to
I
go back to
turned I
Dallas
turned
for
this
game.
around for you. I turned this around.
Okay. I was going to try to go back for game two on Friday with the Stars.
Really.
Yeah, we'll see.
Um, so like I know when like Will Wade got the job, when a lot of guys got the job, the number they were given, everybody was like, all right, that's pretty good. Because you're basing it on what it was or what you heard it was a year ago. And everybody's like, all right, it's pretty good. I can compete at the level. Well, the numbers are completely out of whack now. I mean, they've doubled for a lot of programs. We know there's one program, I won't say who it is, but it's somewhere in the, I don't know, 17, 20, 22 million dollars. I mean, it's crazy, right? Other teams in your league in excess, a lot of them in excess of, maybe 8, 10, 12 million, somewhere around there. Um, how has it been to navigate that part of it, Alex, and not get frustrated with it? Because again, the number that you got when you took the job now may not be what you were like. Again, you're planning for that. You're planning for that, and you're thinking, okay, we can put together a roster based on this number, no problem. We can compete with a lot of other schools in the league. And now maybe that might not be quite accurate.
When I was contemplating taking the job, I called a lot of college coaching friends, and that's the one thing they said. They said NIL, portal, NIL, and it just became clear to me, and I truly mean this. I knew from the beginning. I've learned a lot about the portal. Like
Yeah.
there was a lot to go through it, but I didn't want to be I didn't want to get in bidding wars for guys.
Yep.
Right. I didn't want a guy to come just because he's going to make the most money. I think it's more difficult to succeed that way. And just knowing Utah and a lot of the people here, I think, there's plenty enough support to where, like, if you get a guy, like, you can keep him,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, 'cause I think there's a lot of smaller jobs where you do a good job recruiting, you find a diamond in the rough, and then you have no chance of keeping him. And I guess that's what I want to do. And again, I'm going to learn. It might change, but like I think we can get good guys. And I think what we're selling is you'll make good money, but like they want to come here because of the coaching staff, the university, and they want to get better, and then we're going to win. And I think we've done a good job so far with that. And I don't want to. And again, this might be naive, but again, the appeal to me in college is having a kid for more than 1 year, and I don't want to have a new roster every year. And NBA or college, continuity is still underrated to this day.
Yep. No, I'm with you. And that's the hardest part of covering it right now, to be honest, Alex, is, when I got into this thing, I remember I started the transfer list. I've been doing I did it 20 years ago, literally started it. You know how many players were on it year one?
You probably didn't need too many pages.
250 players.
Yeah.
250 players. And I would reach out to every school, coach from every school back then. And now you're talking, 2,500 players. And it definitely makes it harder to have continuity, no matter who you are, right? I mean, I think that's what everybody strives for, but it's really hard in this day and age because, you've got players that see other players bouncing around to 4 places in 4 schools. So they think there's no big deal. And then you've got agents telling them to go in the portal to try to make more money, to try to get leverage and everything like that. What's your because you've got a different viewpoint in all this, I bet, than a lot of these college guys that have been in it for the last 15 years. You've been in the NBA. You've seen it from afar how it's changed. But you were an assistant coach in college for Majerus 15 or so years ago. What's your overall take on kind of where it's at right now? And I know you're new to it, so you probably don't want to hey, this is the one thing I'd change if I was running college basketball. But there might be something else where you're like, hey, you know what? This is the one thing I would change.
The thing I think that I kind of felt it at the beginning, but it's really been apparent to me. I think it's just a lot of short term. What I've tried to do, again, like you mentioned it earlier, like myself and the guys I've hired in my staff, like we tell recruits, I didn't come here. I had a good job. I didn't come here to hit it big or leave, and I think that's a big part of it. And I think got a slow start here because I finished in Dallas but I wanted to do it right, even if it kind of hurt me the first year. And I don't think that's necessarily the attitude in college basketball. It's like race. And it's just like,
people were telling me, Alex, they're like, man, he's an idiot. Like, how could he do this? How could he finish the NBA season? And I'm like, well, maybe loyalty.
No. And and they were good to me. Like Nico, I have a lot of respect for Nico and Jason and the other guys, but and again, I think they would have been all right with it, but it was for me. And it was hard for the players that were still here. And the first conversation I had with everybody is it might come back to hurt me, but I just feel it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
That's the way I kind of was raised in the game. But I want to, it's not for next month or next year. It's building something.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today.
So
Go ahead,
yeah,
I'm good,
I
sir.
remember Utah basketball when it was Utah basketball, and I'm assuming the pride you have in this program, right? You want to get it back and sustain this thing where people understand, like, okay, yeah, we're not just an afterthought.
Yeah, no, that's been kind of a fun part about it because there's like talking to my teammates that care, like, and you know, they kind of in a passive way, and even fans that, you know, talk about the, you know, those days and you know, the memories, the flashbacks are coming back, and but yeah, no, it was great. I remember like I actually wasn't here, but I remember they had Tim Duncan and Wake Forest 1 versus 2 on New Year's Eve was here. Like there was you know, in the, you know, we had a 15,000 plus seat arena that was full most nights. And yeah, no, and it's funny, even some of the guys on staff, like we in our locker room, the guys that have gone to the pros, and they're like, oh, Tom Chambers, you know, like you in the history, you know, not just my era, but for decades, like it was. And I think when I left 25 years ago, I think it was the ninth winningest all-time program, which was you know, long time building, but the names we were ahead of were some significant programs, and the names we were just behind were the same thing. So yeah, you know, you kind of you kind of forget, but yeah, no, it was fun. I mean, you know, football's actually, they've done a great job with the football team here. You know, when I first started here, it was just starting, but
So how do
yeah,
you
no,
get it
there's
back,
definitely,
Alex? Alex, how do you get, I guess, what's the blueprint for you to get Utah back? Like, do you have one?
you know what? It's easy. Win. Nope. But I think
So
yeah,
easy.
yeah, no, just win. But I think you know, just there's like a lot of little things because you know, there's people that are grown up now that talk about they came to camp when I played, and you know, I worked camp, and you know, Utah is it's big enough place, but it's also a small enough place where, you know, where people and boosters they met the team. Like I still have lifelong friendships with fans, you know, whose kids came to camp and stuff like that. Just kind of the connection, I think, which is Utah is a place you can do it easier than the other places where it's you know, but yeah, the success and you know, you build the excitement, which I think, you know, we're starting to do. And but you know, a successful program is like any level is that's what gets people, I think.
All right. So you were coached by, I try to sugarcoat this, but an MFer. All right. We'll call him an MFer. What's your style going to be like? And I'm talking about Rick Majerus, who coached you, one of the greatest to ever do it. How do you describe your coaching style as a head coach? You were a head coach in the G League for the Canton team in Cleveland for a couple of years. Give me your coaching style.
You know that I love the D League. There's not a better place. My 2 years as a head coach there was great because you kind of find who you are, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
think, you know, when I first started, I came from being with coaching with Coach Majerus, you know, and I kind of, you know, tried to be what I had been around, right? And that's not me. That's only one person can be that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think fair, and you one of over the last few years in the NBA, I've listened to a lot of football coaches talk, like Mike Tomlin and Belichick, and the one thing is like personal relationships with guys. Like for instance, I tell recruits I'm not gonna have 12 coaches. I go I go every coach is a player development coach. Like I'm a head coach, I'm a player development coach. I learned this in the D League too. Like there's nothing better. You go get a kid at night and you come to the gym and shoot. You're right. Then the next day he doesn't block out. Guess what? You can get on him, and it has a different, and he knows where you're coming from and that you care. But yeah, I mean my coaching style is like there's certain things that you can't bend on. Like Coach Majerus always used to say, like if you went and watched somebody's practice, you there's should come away with 2 or 3 things that you know they do, which I don't think happens a lot. And you know, we're gonna be a tough team, unselfish, and play the right way. You know, it's the funny thing because that's kind of I think Utah, the Jazz and the University of Utah for all the years, for decades, that's kind of the team that they've had. Kind of like they play hard and they overachieve in a sense.
Yep. Yep. No, you're right. That's what you kind of think of both of the, Stockton and Malone. Obviously, Stockton was incredible, but yeah, you look at him and you're like, all right,
Yeah. And that was the same thing at University of Utah. That we didn't have a long list of McDonald's All-Americans
no.
and credit to Majerus and those guys, but you kind of overachieved. You got the most out of your guys. And that's what that's what I'm selling. That's what I'm going to try to do.
All right. Give me your favorite Majerus story that you can actually tell, because there are a lot of them that I'm sure are probably off record.
Yeah, there are. Can you have a bleep button? No, it's one that came to mind because we did a lot of Zoom calls with kids and their parents and coaches and agents. And it reminded me when Coach Majerus came to my house for a home visit, and he came in sweats and he was sick as a dog. I think it was sunny, so it wasn't too hot, but it was spring. He came in sweats and brought a box of Kleenexes. And he had a lot of phlegm, and he would say, "Excuse me." He was polite, and then he would spit into the Kleenex and, and put it in his pocket. But it was he was real. You know what? And even if you didn't like him, you always knew where you stood, and he told his truth. The delivery might not have been the way you wanted to hear it or receive it, but he always told the truth. And I remember he asked me, I just remember this just now. He asked me a question. I didn't have any questions. I mean, I think 17. I said, because all I wanted to do was play in the NCAA tournament. I asked about the Final Four, and he gave one of his chuckles, which were hilarious, the hearty. And he said, well, I asked about playing in the Final Four, and he chuckled and said, well, a lot of that depends on you. And he kind of laughed. And it was funny because I reminded him of that because actually did play in the Final Four, 5 years later. I think 5 years. But
But in the
yeah, no,
championship game, right? You're in
yeah,
championship game against Kentucky.
yeah. 27 years ago in San Antonio.
Wow. Wow. That's
Yeah, I know.
amazing. Make you feel old?
Yeah, no, it does. That's all right.
I
still
remember
feel
being in
young.
college watching that game. So
Yeah,
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I was older than you. So
yeah.
what so after that freshman year, were you excited in a way? Because you got to get away from Majerus for a couple of years. You went to Mormon Mission. Was it almost like, all right, listen, after all those F-bombs and other profanities that he threw at you, like I need a year or two just to kind of recalibrate?
No, it was actually kind of hard because when I left, me and Doliak were freshmen. Keith was a sophomore. So the next year, Keith was a junior, and then Andre was starting his freshman year because he had to sit out that first year. And it was actually hard because that was the we got to the, I think, second round. Then the next 2 years, I think they lost to Kentucky both years, but they got to the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight. And it was kind of hard because um that core of that group was young and it was growing. But it worked out, and I came back, and all those guys were seniors or juniors. I was a sophomore, and Keith had just graduated, got drafted, and it's interesting point you bring up. Even though I was away for 2 years, a little out of shape and stuff, but like I came back and I had remembered because I had been taught and drilled, like I mentioned, those 2, 3 things you do in practice every day, or you walk away from knowing what you do. Like I knew those, so it was easier to assimilate back into it because you knew what it was about, if that makes sense. I think the game at all levels has lost that. And to answer your earlier question, like that's what I'm trying to build. So where, let's say if I get a missionary kid, he goes away for 2 years, or they go earlier now, but he comes back, they know. Like you could ask in my teammates 20 years ago, you could tell them like what we taught. Yeah. So
All right, my last one is a completely off-topic one. You can totally avoid it if you want to, but I'm gonna ask it anyway.
Okay.
What was it like for you when you're on the Dallas Mavericks staff there when the Luka trade was made? I'm not gonna ask you what you think of the Luka trade. I'm gonna ask you like what it was like, what that atmosphere was like in Dallas, because I'm watching it and I'm like, holy, like I didn't realize. Obviously, the love that the Mavs fans had for Luka. But like, I didn't think it was to that level where the fan backlash was kind of what it was. Just like as somebody that was kind of in it, what was that like?
No, it was, it's funny because at that same time, I was, kind of thinking about this job. So my mind in the rest of the year would go back and forth. But no, it was interesting. And I truly, as a coach, like I truly felt that way. Like regardless, like my job's still the same. And there's so many people in the NBA, you just kind of it's hard. Like you worry about, just how it affects everybody. But, at the end of the day, it's a reminder that um, it is what it is. But yeah, no, it was a very interesting time to put it lightly. And I again, like I don't have any, opinions necessarily as such because that's the interesting thing about college. Like that's the one thing I did is I hired a GM, not a coach that's a GM
A guy who
because
hired you
yeah,
again, a guy who hired
yeah,
you and Wes Wilcox, who's
yeah,
yeah,
really
that's
good.
kind of cool.
Because I think it's hard to you got to delineate the lanes and the roles that you have. But yeah, as a head coach, like you don't want to be the main negotiator in the contracts and then try to get a kid to run back or block out on defense.
No, keep it
So
separate. Keep it separate. The
yeah,
money from the coaching, if you can keep it separate, I don't understand why more coaches don't want to do that and have a GM. It's funny because I've known Wes a long time, um, and I've always kind of tried to figure out, okay, a GM for each program is going to be a little bit different, right? Like we don't yet know the definition of a general manager for a college basketball program. It's evolving in a way. Probably depends
oh,
on what you want and also what Wes brings to the table.
oh yeah, no, and because Wes is like he said, he hired me in the D League long time ago. And he's like, whenever I have a decision, he's the guy I asked for advice. And that, he was the guy said, hey, because that was my idea was getting a younger guy maybe that had done it in the G League, but that's what they wanted to do. They didn't want to coach. And he expressed interest. And it was funny because our conversations, because he would ask the same things. He's a smart guy. What is it? What does it look like? And I would I was trying to sell him on it. So I was like, whatever you want. Yeah.
It's open ended. You can have
Who's in
whatever control you want, Wes.
Yeah, who's in charge? You are. What? Yeah. We laugh about it now, but it's actually I and it's funny because it took me a long time, and I told everybody, the players, the administrations, like this is the first domino or one of the first dominoes to fall,
Well,
and and I think it's going to be again like I didn't need 12 coaches, and I'd rather have somebody like Wes, and I think more college programs will go to it.
I'll tell you, you hired one of my favorite people of all time on your staff, a guy I've known since I was covering the prep schools. He was at West Nottingham then he went to South Kent, Rafael Chilios. So, like, one of the best people ever.
Oh,
And
unbelievable.
positive, like, great energy, great way about him with people. So, tell Chills I said hello
I
because I
will.
miss him, and he's as good a human being as there is.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was we had coached a couple summers together,
Did
and
you?
he was scouting for Memphis. I tell the story all the time. It gets old, but we were playing Boston. We went up to eat because he was there, and the rumors had just started about me, and he brought it up, and he expressed some interest. I was like, chill, like you got a good job, like like and he was thank goodness he was the first guy I hired, and yeah, he's and I'm still like grateful that because there's a lot of jobs especially in college and other he could take, and we're lucky to have him. Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. The staff.
Well, Alex, I appreciate you taking some time. I know it's slowed down a little bit, but you probably still have plenty on your plate. So,
Yes.
congrats. Try to enjoy the small window that you have here before the mayhem starts and all the kids get on campus and summer session one begins soon. And I'm
Yes.
sure I'll see you on the road in July somewhere on the recruiting trail watching, some high school players. Don't just go all portal. We like high school players still getting scholarships too, right? You were one of those at one point.
Yep, that's the plan.